Welcome to the second video in rotation and torque. This may possibly be the shortest video of your entire course. In this video we are looking at the case of constant angular acceleration. So thinking back to our motion topic, we looked at the case of constant acceleration. And the constant linear or the constant translational or linear acceleration is equivalent to the constant angular acceleration. And as we saw in the previous video, we can relate our translational acceleration to our angular acceleration. They are essentially exactly the same, except that we're using different variable names. So if you will think back to your motion videos, you may recall that when we looked at the case of constant acceleration, that gave us our equations of motion. And in exactly the same way, when we look at the case of constant angular acceleration, we get our equations of angular motion. So in this table, in the left-hand column, we have our linear equations of motion. So you should recognize those. I've grayed out the last two simply because we encounter them less often. To find our equations of angular motion, all we do is we transfer our variables. So we know from our previous slide that our velocity v went to omega. So here we say that our initial velocity u we will call omega 0, and our final velocity we'll call omega. Then we have our linear displacement s goes to our angular displacement delta theta, our linear acceleration a goes to our angular acceleration alpha, and our time is our time. And so to get our equations of angular motion, all we do is we swap in the rotational variables for the linear variables, and we find that we have these 5 equations of angular motion. So I won't go through all of them, but you can see that our first equation, our final velocity is equal to our initial velocity plus the acceleration times the time, is now written as our final angular velocity is equal to our initial angular velocity plus the angular acceleration times the time. So that wraps it up for this video. So I'll leave you with the practice questions.